threads about YouTube and creator hooks. One of the first people that come to mind is Jake Thomas. So tell us about it.
Thanks, Nico. Yeah, so I help people write better YouTube titles. I kind of stumbled into it. I love YouTube and just like the power, especially the power of titles. So like you're talking like 5 or 10 words could drive like hundreds of thousands of views and like millions or hundreds of thousands of views and millions of dollars. So just like, it's very powerful. And yeah, just kind of stumbled into it. I got lucky.
How did you learn so much about YouTube titles?
So I look at about 200 YouTube channels a week. So, and I take notes on all those channels. I'm like taking notes on what is working. And then, so what I've done over the past year is just like, all right, this was an outlier. This video did much better than the previous videos. And this was another outlier. So now I've got almost 300 outliers that I've kind of made notes of. And then just like searching for patterns through those outliers. I've kind of like I categorized all those outliers and like, all right, this one used fear. This one used curiosity. I'm just going like super deep into it, just kind of like nerding out about titles and then just studying patterns and saying, all right, like this worked for this channel and it also worked for this channel. And like, so when you start to see patterns, you can start to just kind of see, all right, like this is actually works. Like it works all the time. Like I've looked at 100 different channels and this type of video has worked every single time. So just studying patterns and then taking really nerdy notes.
Which one of those emotions, like fear, curiosity, has worked the most?
Definitely curiosity. So out of the almost 300 titles, about 60% of them use curiosity. And you could kind of make the argument that more than 60% of them are using curiosity. But like, because if you talk about like a how-to video, like how to start a podcast, like, yes, that is like, you're building a little curiosity because you're kind of opening up a loop. Like, yes, I'd love to learn how to start a podcast, but it's not like using like really powerful curiosity. Like, here's an example: the tricks influencers use to influence you, right? You got a little bit of negativity in there. You've got that builds a lot more curiosity. So yeah, curiosity is the biggest thing. And I've talked to a lot of other creators like Pat Flynn and Daryl Eves, and they've all said like, yeah, curiosity is the number one most important thing when you're talking about writing titles. And I've also just seen that in studying a ton of YouTube channels.
How can someone like adjust their title to be like more curiosity based, and how would like a curiosity title look for like Mr. Beast case?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways. The easiest one, and maybe the most common one, is to open up a loop. So what that means is like starting a story, but not finishing it. So an example, the number one skill you're missing to make running easier. Like I told you about, there's a skill that you're missing, but I didn't tell you what that skill, right? Yeah. So that's opening up a loop. That's starting a story, but not finishing it. You can also like reveal a secret, right? So like secrets are like, they have a lot of curiosity. And so one example, the real cost of starting on Airbnb that no one tells you, right? So like, yeah, you're opening up a loop there, but also you're revealing a secret, like, oh, real cost, right? Like
it kind of like makes you excited to know like what the real reason.
Yeah, exactly. You can also use contrast. And so contrast is pairing opposite words together. So, or opposite topics. So like the healthy foods that you should absolutely not eat, right? Like that doesn't make sense, right? Healthy foods that you shouldn't eat. You're like, wait, why shouldn't you eat these healthy foods? So that builds a lot of curiosity. And then also challenging assumptions, like thinking about what do people assume? And then how do you go against what they assume? So from Channel Makers, it's a YouTube channel about how to grow on YouTube. They've got a really good video. It's called I've Stopped Asking People to Subscribe. You should too. So like if you're on YouTube, it's kind of the best practices like, oh, like, all right, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. But this person who teaches YouTube says I've stopped asking people to subscribe. Like that doesn't make any sense. So you've got to click and find out. So that builds a ton of curiosity there.
Yeah. I really like the Airbnb example because like I would click that video even though I'm not into like that type of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah. And then I've seen a lot of videos with that same format. So the real costs of Airbnb, like how 6-figure tech salaries actually work, how a professional painter actually creates their paintings, right? Like just kind of revealing a secret and getting giving you insider information. Like, man, I've got to click that out. I've got to see what's going on there.
Definitely.
I've got a newsletter, and that's an email newsletter. And that was, so I've got a couple things. So I have a blog about dogs and a YouTube channel about dogs. That's like my little like kind of a sandbox testing ground.
Your side hustle channel you mentioned.
Yep, exactly. And then but the problem with those is that the algorithms kind of control whether or not you are going to be successful, right? Like Google just made an algorithm change recently, and a lot of people on Twitter have been kind of complaining, like, man, I just lost 50% or 20% of my traffic from Google overnight. Like that stinks, and that's not in your control. And the kind of same, I haven't seen it as much with the YouTube algorithm, but still, sometimes my videos will just pop off randomly, and it's not like I did anything different, but the YouTube algorithm just decided to smile on me. So I wanted to create something that wasn't so dependent on an algorithm. So I created an email newsletter. It's possible that Google or Gmail is going to change like how they like deliver emails, but really email just doesn't change all that much, especially compared to Google and YouTube. So I wanted to start a newsletter because I felt like I had a little bit more control. The downside about that is there's no discoverability in email newsletters. Like,
ask you about that.
Yeah, I've got to go and I've got to come on podcasts like this one. So people can, hear my name and I can say, hey, go join my newsletter. Or I've got to write Twitter threads or create YouTube videos. So you have to bring people to your YouTube channel or to your newsletter. But once they're there, it's a lot easier to keep them there. It's not like a YouTube subscriber where like they might not watch any of your videos, or like a follower on Instagram where it's Instagram's choice whether or not they're going to show your picture to your follower. It's a lot. I feel like I have a lot more control over growing my newsletter. It's a little slower for sure, but I feel a lot more comfortable. And especially now I have an email newsletter and a blog and a YouTube channel, kind of diversified. So if one thing just totally tanks, I'm not feeling as bad about that.
Yeah. So do you prefer like newsletters, email, or do you prefer like actually making videos?
So I'm a kind of a writer first. I know a lot of people are really comfortable on camera, and like sometimes I'll be texting with people and they'll send me a voice message. Like I am not voice or video first. Definitely a writer. I think slow. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'm a writer first. And that's why I've grown on Twitter as opposed to creating a YouTube channel. I would much rather write Twitter threads about how to write better titles than create a YouTube video and be in front of the camera. Like I love talking with you. I love talking with people, but when it comes to just like kind of sharing my thoughts, I would much rather write them down. So that's why I've got a blog, I've got an email newsletter, and I'm on Twitter just because that's writing first.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. So how did you actually start creatorhooks?
So creatorhooks, I heard about an idea from Sean on My First Million. That's a podcast. And he was talking about data, kind of finding data that's publicly available, but difficult to, I guess, interpret. And he was talking about a newsletter that kind of gives you information about your competitors' e-commerce stores. And I was like, dang, first off, I was thinking about starting a newsletter because of the algorithm problems that we just talked about. So I was kind of on the hunt for an email newsletter idea. And I was a channel manager at the time, and I was studying YouTube channels. And so every week, we would have our content meeting on Monday morning, and I'd be like, all right, guys, we're going to make, these 10 videos this week. And then we would just kind of go from there. And how I came up with those ideas was looking at other successful channels kind of similar to ours. So I was doing creator hooks for myself, or for the company that I was working for like a year. And then I was like, well, I could, like, this is working really well for us. I wonder if this would work well for other people. So I started taking some of those ideas that, like, some of those videos that we were modeling from other channels, and I just started putting those in an email newsletter, sent it out to a couple people. It's like, hey, like, this is how I really love this. Like, do you think that you would use this? And I cold emailed like 50 people, and a lot of people were like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I would definitely sign up, definitely start making this. So that's how I got started. That's how I validated the idea. And then just kind of going from there. And a lot of people talk about building public right now, especially on Twitter. They're like, oh, I'm going to build this SaaS. But creator hooks is like learning in public. And
Mhm.
that has been the best thing for me. Like we talked about earlier, that's how I learned how to write better titles. Like I was pretty good at writing titles. And honestly, most of that just came from modeling other channels. But then once I like forced myself to write, why did these videos work every single week, five videos for a year, and just try to explain to other people why they work, then I started noticing more patterns. So creator hooks, like even if I don't make any money from creator hooks, I have learned so much. Like it's helped me with my like grow on Twitter. Like I now know
Yeah.
what makes people or what grabs people's attention, and it's helped me grow my dog YouTube channel, which is like just now starting to take off. I started 2 years ago and it was terrible, and then kind of finally figured out how to write better titles, and now it's starting to grow.
On the topic of our dog YouTube channel, tell us about that.
Like I said, I hate being in front of camera. So, but I knew that I wanted to start a YouTube channel. I was a channel manager for another company. It was a fishing channel, and we tripled our subscribers in like 2 years, and we like quadrupled our business at the same time. So I was seeing like, man, YouTube is really powerful. I need to get on YouTube. So I started like a talking head channel, and I was just terrible. It was so bad. I hated it, and it took forever, and it was doing okay, but it was a grind. I didn't like it at all. So I would make like 5 videos at a time. I'd get burned out. I'd take 6 months off, 5 videos again, 6 months later, I'd get burned out again, wait another 6 months. And then I finally was like, you know what? I bet I could do like a voiceover channel. So I hired some dude on Fiverr to just like put a bunch of clips of dogs together. Again, people would rather see clips of dogs anyway than see my ugly face.
Yeah.
So then so I wrote out the script, I read it, I hired some dude on Fiverr to make a video of it, and then the very first one that I published, it did pretty well. Like I think it was like a 3 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10, and I was expecting it to like do terrible because it was like a different format, but it started doing better. So since then, I've been able to consistently publish 1 video a week, and now it's finally growing. Now that I've been able to be consistent, I'm way more happy
Congrats.
with it. And yeah, thanks.
So are you still like outsourcing, like putting dog videos clips together, or is that actually like you actually making them now?
Yeah, so the only thing I'm outsourcing is the editing of the video. I'm the one writing the script. I'm the one coming up with the idea, and it's really like, so I'm learning a lot of things through creator hooks, and I'm kind of testing them. Like, so one example, something I've seen a lot in creator hooks is talking about regrets and also talking about like beginner tips. So I was like, all right, like I'm seeing this pattern all the time in a lot of different videos. So let me try it out and see if it'll work for my channel. So I talked about the biggest regret in raising my first puppy, or my biggest regret in raising my first puppy, right? You got fear, and then you've got beginner tips. Like, this is my first puppy. And that video it's a 1 out of 10. It's been a 1 out of 10 for the past 2 weeks since I've published it. So, so really just kind of, testing. It's like my testing. I do a lot of A/B tests with TubeBuddy on it to try to figure out like, all right, how do I, like what different elements are going to increase the click-through rate? How does that affect, like the watch time and stuff? So yeah. So, the dog channel is just, how it's my little testing ground, and it's been super cool. And yeah, and I'm doing everything myself. I might outsource things later down the road. I've got a dog trainer that helps me with the blog posts, and also with a little bit of this, right? Like, I'm not a dog trainer, I'm a marketer. So for some of the things, like, if I'm talking about my biggest regret, like, yeah, that's my personal story. But if I want to talk about kind of some more like kind of technical, like dog training things, that's where she helps me with it. So yeah, I'll do a little bit more outsourcing of her writing some scripts. But besides that, I'm the one, coming up with the idea. I'm creating the thumbnails because I want to get better at making thumbnails, right? Like, I could totally hire somebody, and I used to back when I like didn't really like it, but now I'm just trying to do everything myself so that I can get my skills.
What's like the hardest thing about running that dog channel?
Ooh, good question. I mean, so the easiest thing is writing titles, because that's like super fun, and like that's all I do all day is look at YouTube titles. I think the hardest thing is maybe ordering the video, like, hey, like, if you could, edit this video, and just giving my editor instructions and clear instructions, and, just communicating with him, like, this is what I want. Like, this works well. So yeah, just kind of like being a manager, being
Yeah.
a producer, I guess.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the struggles of when you outsource things. You have to kind of face that, but if you do it yourself, it's more time, so it's kind of more convenient.
Yes, definitely. And that's why I've outsourced editing, because I hate editing and I'm bad at it. Right. So that was the very first
Mhm,
thing that I've outsourced. And
mhm.
I'm slowly starting to outsource the scripting. That definitely takes the most time. So
Mhm.
I'm starting to outsource that. And also, I found someone who's definitely better at editing than I am. And now
Yeah.
the dog trainer, she's a really good writer too. So yeah, so she can better, or as good, or if not better, at scripting the videos. So yeah, I'm starting to outsource that more, so that I can free up some time. And I'm just trying to be a better manager through that. I mean, it's been interesting, but I typically want to be the type of person who does everything myself, and I'm
Same.
having to change from that.
Yeah. Now, I have no clue how I found your Twitter account. I don't remember. Like I one day it popped up. I don't know how it popped up, but I liked it and I'll follow it. How did you grow your Twitter audience? Because that's really curious because I can't even remember how I found it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks. So all I do is write Twitter threads. I definitely not, I don't live like an interesting life. I'm not like
Mhm.
the wittiest dude. I'm not, sharing a bunch of like, one hit, or a bunch of like one liners. All it is like education. And so I'm trying to go for 2 threads a week. Usually I hit 1 thread a week. A couple months ago, I had surgery on my nose, and I was kind of like stuck in bed. And I'm like, you know what? I've got nothing else to do. I don't really feel like doing real work. So I'm going to write a Twitter thread every single day for a month. So the whole month of December, I wrote a Twitter thread every day. And that helped me. I didn't grow that much. I went from like 200 followers to like 500 followers, maybe 800 followers. And so writing the threads didn't really grow immediately, but it helped me create like a baseline of like skills and also data. Like, okay, I know that this works well. I know that this doesn't work well. So let me try to figure out or let me go from there. Like, if I had just written like 1 thread a week to start, then it'd take me a long time to get good data. But just by kind of going like, hard at first, I kind of hit the ground running, got a lot of data, and then kind of pivoted from that. And a lot of my threads are from creator hooks. So creator hooks is all about YouTube, but it's really the study of like what makes people click. So I wrote a thread the other day that people are making their YouTube videos backwards, and I got that from a video that I found in creator hooks, and that was it was like 90% of people are decluttering their house backwards. So I just used like, all right, then that video did really well for that channel. So I was like, okay, like people are decluttering backwards, and that did really well. So I bet that I could write a thread about people making their YouTube videos backwards. And yeah, it did really well. So yeah, just like all I've been doing is using creator hooks as little like prompts, like writing prompts for my Twitter threads. And that's been working really.
I personally very enjoy Twitter threads. Twitter threads, they are amazing.
Thank
What is
you.
the process of writing one? Because from the looks of it, it looks like something that would take like a couple hours to do. But you said 1 or 2 a week, so
Yeah. So
how is it?
my process, I start with, and it's kind of the same with like a YouTube video, is I start with thinking about the audience and like what is going to make them click. Right. So a lot of people, they make the video first, and then they try to like slap a thumbnail and a title on there, and then it kind of
Mhm.
flops. And it's the same thing with writing. Like I think, what does somebody want to read about? And then I kind of like deliver on that promise, right? So if I'm making a video about 90% of people are making their YouTube videos backwards, because I know that the audience is probably going to want to read that, then I just work backwards from there. Like, okay, how do I kind of deliver on that promise? So starting with a good hook, and that's why it's called creator hooks. So yes, just starting with a good hook, and then delivering on that hook, and then yeah, that's it. I write it in like a little notes on my Mac, and then I put it on Twitter, and it does well.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
you mentioned before that like you were making one every day for a month, and then now you're doing 2 a week. How do you transition into
Yeah.
like
So
from
when I was doing one every day a month, I wasn't getting anything done. All I was
Mhm.
doing was playing around on Twitter all day. And I was writing sometimes like a Twitter thread on Saturday morning, sometimes on Sunday morning. And then what happened was I got a couple of clients. So, from growing on, and then on January 1st. So because I wrote all the threads in December. Then I started working for clients. So I did a lot less writing on Twitter. Then I was spending all my time serving my clients, and it's been an easy transition. I've had to kind of force writing Twitter threads in my routine, and I made this decision a couple weeks ago, or like last week. It's like, all right, Thursday mornings are my Twitter thread writing days. So we're shooting this on a Wednesday. So tomorrow morning I'll be writing my Twitter thread. But it was a pretty easy transition to go from one every day to one or two a week. But now I've been kind of slacking, so I gotta pick it up. It's easy when you're doing one every single day. It's like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing every day. But now I gotta really make sure that, okay, like I'm doing this today because I've got to write my Twitter thread for the week.
Which were you having more fun doing, like the one every day or now like once a week?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think I'm having more fun now, but I really did enjoy writing them every day just because I'm like, this is all like out of curiosity, right? Like I'm like, oh, I think this idea is going to work. And then I get really excited to write it, and then I publish it, and like I'm always just like, refreshing Twitter on my desktop, or, opening up the app on my phone, closing it. And then 2 minutes later, like, oh, did anybody else like it? Like I'm a little obsessed, and it's not always good for my mental health, but I just love testing things. Like I love, seeing an idea. All right, this worked here. My idea is that I think that it could work for a Twitter thread, and let me go test it and see if I'm right. And creatorhooks, like I said, is building in public or learning in public. So I've got this theory. Let me test it. I'll test it on YouTube. I'll test it on Twitter. I'll test it like in an email subject line, or with some of my clients. So all I'm doing is like coming up with new crazy ideas and theories, and then testing them to see if I can prove them wrong, or if I can maybe have some more evidence for they might be right.
That thing you said about like the numbers keep refreshing is like so relatable. I had like a YouTube channel that like blew up January, and it was a Roblox channel before in February of 2021. I did for a couple months, got 200 subscribers and got bored. And then 1 year later, I decided to start making Minecraft shorts. And I went from 200 subscribers to 22,000.
Dang.
And that was amazing. Great. And I was in Zoom classes at that point. And I would have my Zoom here, and below, like on my camera, the sub count. So it would look like I'm paying attention if I'm actually looking at the sub count. And I would have the teacher on my monitor here. It'd be on my sub count. So I teach it and not here. And it'd just be like, look at the sub count. Because it was going up like every second, going up like 10 subscribers, 1 subscriber. And I got like 3,000 subscribers in English class.
Awesome. Dude, I love it. Like you're in class, but like you're just hustling on YouTube and like growing, and like not to like poo-poo on school, but like you're learning like real skills. Like you can really make a good living on YouTube. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question. So I said that I'm a writer first. I would much rather write than be on video or talk. How do you think about that? Are you a writer first, or you video first?
I would much rather be on video. I feel like I'm more of a talkative person. So yeah, video is a lot better.
Is that how it is like with most of your friends?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm curious, like if it's like not to sound like an old man, but like if it's like a generation thing. Like when I was growing up, we were texting. Like all we did was text. Like we texted our friends. Like, but we didn't call them. Like we didn't get on FaceTime or anything. FaceTime wasn't around. So so I think that might be because that have encouraged like me just being a writer first, because that's how I talked to all my friends back then.
Yeah, I FaceTime my friends very rarely because like I have like 2 friend groups, my school friend group and my where I live friend group. And the where I live friend group, I see them every day. Right after this podcast, I'm gonna go to the gym with them. And my school friend group, I normally mainly text to, and the other ones not really, because we see each other in person. And so
interesting.
With my friends, it's mostly message.
Cool. And I think that's awesome that you have the skill to be on video. It's definitely something that I'm working hard at.
Yeah.
How did you why are you the world's youngest podcaster? That's awesome, but like why did you decide to do this?
So YouTube or podcasting?
Podcast.
So I was already doing YouTube for like 5 years, and one of my friends interviewed a retired professional soccer player, football player. And I was like, oh, I can do that. So that same day, I messaged my brother, can I interview you? And I prepared everything that same day. I got my name on the spot. Well, I was like, I started the podcast and I came up with the name on the spot. And yeah, that's how I started. I started sending emails and yeah,
That's awesome.
that started.
I
And
feel
then I
like,
found out like a couple months later, I was the youngest podcaster. So I started using it as the hook.
oh yeah, that's awesome. That's like such a strong opening. And do you feel
Yeah.
like kids want to like people want to help you because they're the youngest podcaster?
Yeah, I've gotten a couple emails of like people like I'll read on that. So very rarely I get like messages from people, oh, how did you do this? I'd love to help you at some point. So I got an email from this guy and he was like, oh, that's so cool. I kind of relate to you. I started doing entrepreneurial stuff when I was young. I'd love to help you out in some way. And yeah, it was like very rarely I get those messages, but yeah, I do get some.
That's awesome. Yeah, nobody says that to you when you're 30 years old. So
Yeah. So what's your favorite thing about like books, dog channel? Like there's one thing that this is my favorite thing about it. What would that one thing be?
it's coming up with theories and then testing them. So, I'll try to, the regret. I was like, all right, I think that regret really works. I know that, and I've been seeing that beginner tips work. Like I love coming up with those theories, and it's great because like I can usually test them out pretty quickly. So I can write a Twitter thread, and the most important part of a Twitter thread is the first tweet. So like if that's a really strong hook, then it'll usually do well. And then you can also like TubeBuddy lets you A/B test, like if you have their legendary package. And that's been the coolest thing for me is starting an A/B test and then waiting like a couple days to, like till you can get the results in, and just trying to see like, are my theories right? And I think that's been really fun for me. And that has helped me stick with creator hooks, even though it's been a year and I haven't made like that much. I've gotten a couple consulting clients, but I didn't really want to do consulting. And for about 8 months, I went from 0 to like 500 subscribers. And it was slow growth, and just like the having fun with it and just like trying to just be like a little guinea pig. That has been a blast for me. And actually, I'm almost at like 5,000 subscribers like in the last like 3 months. So like it was really slow, like no growth. And then now
Congrats.
It's finally started to take off a little bit. Yeah. But just like the having fun and like learning helped me get through like the early days when I like wasn't growing at all.
What is one piece of advice you say to anyone that wants to start improving titles? Like it's not good at titles, so wants to become really good at writing titles, or just title advice in general?
Yeah. So the best thing that you can do to write better YouTube titles is to model what works. I've talked to a lot of like the producers behind some of the really YouTube channels, and I'm always asking like, hey, dude, how do you write such great titles? Like you're the person I look up to. And they're just like, oh yeah, I just model what works for other channels. Like, so it's kind of like a cheat code, and it's available for everybody. So just like, and you can model what works in your industry, but if you do that, there's kind of like a good chance that you're going to like just be copying people. But like, yes, like definitely make those videos because they're proven to work, but also look outside your industry and try to take things from other industries that have worked, and then see if they'll work for your channel, because chances are they are going to work for your channel, and you're going to use that to create totally original content in your industry, and you're going to be able to grow. So definitely the biggest tip is modeling what works.
Yeah, it's like if it works, why fix it?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. It really means a lot. Is there anything you want to promote?
Creatorhooks.com. Like I said, the best thing that you can do to write better YouTube titles is to model what works. And that's all I'm doing with Creator Hooks. I'm going to send you 5 videos every Monday morning that are worth modeling. Like, these videos did really well. You could probably model them for your channel. So yeah, go sign up for the newsletter at creatorhooks.com.
I'll be in the description. Definitely do sign up, and I'll see you next episode of the nicocast.